On the 26th of November 2001, firefighters in Cantonment, Florida were called to a home that was on fire. The firefighters were able to get the situation under control, and once inside, they made a grim discovery. The owner of the home was a man named Terry King, and inside the house, they found him sitting with his arms crossed in his recliner chair, with his feet up resting, and blood all over his face and all over the walls. At first, those on the scene believed that the heat of the fire had caused Terry's head to crack like an egg, but upon closer inspection, it became clear that Terry's head had been caved in with a blunt instrument. Terry King was 40 years old at the time of his death. In 1985, he met a woman named Janet French. The couple never married, but they did have 2 children together, Alex and Derek. While she was living with Terry, she became pregnant with twins to another man. Janet left Terry in 1993 when the boys were just 5 and 6. She saw the boys as somewhat of a burden on her life. Shortly after the separation, Janet changed her name and moved away to Kentucky with her twins, leaving behind Alex and Derek with their father. Terry was unable to financially provide for the boys. Shortly after the breakup, Alex and Derek were put into a Christian home for children run by a local minister, and then were given up for adoption. Alex was deeply distressed by being separated from his father, and so he was returned to Terry the next year. Derek, on the other hand, stayed with his foster parents until 2001. As he grew older, he also grew more rebellious. He started to become obsessed with fire and things that could cause a fire, and so he was sent back to live with Terry. At this point, Alex was 19 and Derek was 13. While the brothers were back with their father, they became acquainted with one of their father's friends, a 41-year-old man named Ricky Chavez. And Ricky had a dark past, a past that Terry had no idea about. In 1983, he was convicted of having inappropriate relationships with 2 boys aged 13. The brothers would spend a lot of time at Ricky's home, and there, they would play video games and smoke in a secret room. The boys enjoyed spending time with Ricky, as they were pretty much allowed to do as they pleased. Terry didn't earn a lot of money, and sometimes was even unable to keep the electricity running. Terry started to notice a change in the boys' behaviour, especially in Alex. Alex started calling Terry by his first name instead of calling him Dad, and because of this, Terry told the boys that they could no longer spend any more time with Ricky. On the 16th of November 2001, Derek and Alex had taken a backpack, grabbed some essentials, and left their father's home. Terry came home to find the boys missing and drove around the area looking for them and called the police. Terry believed that Derek and Alex had gone to Ricky's house. He asked Ricky, but he told Terry that he had no idea where the boys were. A week after the brothers had run away, Terry and Derek's former foster parents were able to locate Derek. They found him 18 miles away at his girlfriend's house. Derek said that he and his brother had spent several days in the woods and that Alex was still out there. But this wasn't true. They had indeed been hiding at Ricky's house. On the 25th of November 2001, one day before the fire, Ricky brought Alex back to his father. Ricky claimed that Alex had called him from a payphone, asking to pick him up. Both of the boys were now home. It was the next day, on the 26th of November, that Terry would be found dead. It was obvious that he had been murdered, and the 2 boys were nowhere to be seen. The police spent the day trying to locate the brothers, but they had little luck. Just one day later, on the 27th, a car pulled up outside the police station. Inside the car was Ricky, Derek, and Alex. The brothers wanted to turn themselves in and told the police the first version of events. The boys told the officers that they feared their father would hurt them for running away, so they came up with a plan to get rid of him before he could. Alex made a statement to the investigator, in which he said, "One of us said, why don't we just kill him? So we looked for a hammer, but we couldn't find one. So Derek pulled out a bat. I think that's what he used. I thought about it, and I figured that it would be the better choice to kill him. Alex then explained that Derek stood over his father as he slept with the bat in his hand, while Alex stood to the side and watched. Alex then said, "So he hits him with the bat the first time. It sounds like wood cracking or hitting concrete or something. Blood starts coming out and he keeps hitting him with it. He smashes his face in, and I'm just standing there watching. It was obvious that he was dead as a little bit of his brain was on the walls." Derek said that he was afraid that his father was going to open his eyes again. He was worried about this as while he was hitting him, he was making a gargling sound. To stop him from making this sound, he continued to violently strike him in the head. After the brothers were satisfied that their father was indeed dead, they set fire to his bed in the other room, hoping the flames would engulf the house and destroy the evidence linking them to the crime. The boys then called Ricky, who brought them back to his house for the night. The following day, he brought them to the police station to turn themselves in. The boys were very open about what they had done and didn't seem too fazed by it. They told the police that their father had laid hands on them a couple of times in the past, and that on the night of the murder, he had pushed them around asking them where they had run away to and who else they were with. Neither of the brothers told their father anything. Instead, they waited for him to fall asleep in his chair and then attacked him. Ricky was initially arrested and charged as an accessory to the murder, as he hid the brothers, and he had also washed their clothing to remove their father's blood. During a search of the partially burned King home, the police found a notebook belonging to Alex, and this notebook contained disturbing evidence that Ricky had groomed him. It read, "My life used to be cloudy before I made friends with Rick. I had a whole lifetime ahead of me, and I didn't know what to do with it. My ultimate goal in life is what his is. Before I met Rick, I was straight, and now I am gay." Alex also told the police that he had indeed been in a relationship with Ricky. The brothers then changed their story. This time, they said that Ricky was the one who actually killed their father. They claimed that Rick had told them that he would kill Terry on their behalf, but that they had to take the rap as they could get a lesser sentence because they were juveniles. They said that Rick told them to create a story that Terry had laid hands on them and that they both killed him in self-defense. They said on the night of the murder, they let Ricky into their home and they waited outside while he killed their father. After this, they burned the house. Based on this, Ricky was now charged with murder too. The trials would soon begin, and this is a rather complicated one. The state prosecutor made a controversial decision to put both Ricky and the brothers on trial in two separate trials for the murder. One where Ricky was accused of the murder, and the other where the boys were accused. Ricky was the first one to be tried. It turned out that Ricky's brother was staying at Ricky's house on the night of the murder. His brother said that Ricky received a phone call after the time of the fires. After this phone call, he left the house and then returned with the boys. It had been the brothers calling Ricky, asking him to pick them up, and this testimony was corroborated with at least 3 other witnesses. Ricky's brothers said that when the boys came into the house, they began telling them both about the gruesome murder story of their father. After making this disturbing confession, they just sat down and started watching TV. The lead homicide detective also said that they had no evidence that Ricky was linked to the crime scene. On the 6th of September 2002, Ricky was found not guilty of the murder, and the verdict was kept under seal until the trial of the 2 King brothers had ended. The boys were tried as adults, each facing 22 years to life in prison for the second-degree murder charge alone. They were also convicted of arson for trying to burn down their home around the body of their father. The fact they were tried as adults led to anger from the community, with many people believing the boys to be innocent and that they were influenced by Ricky to kill. The defense in the boys' trial was that Ricky murdered Terry to cover up his relationship with Alex, and then persuaded the boys to lie on the grounds that they would receive lighter punishments. The brothers pleaded guilty to third-degree murder. Derek was sentenced to 8 years, and Alex was sentenced to 7 years. Even though Ricky was not found guilty of murder, he still faced charges for having an inappropriate relationship with Alex. Although, Ricky was found not guilty for this on the grounds that there wasn't enough evidence to convict him, despite his previous convictions. However, he was found guilty of being an accessory to murder for hiding the boys after the murder had taken place, and for washing their blood-stained clothing. Ricky received the maximum sentence of 35 years in prison. Alex was released on parole on the 9th of April 2008 at the age of 18. Derek was released on the 7th of March 2009 at the age of 20. After Alex was released, he found himself behind bars again for violating his probation. He was involved in a traffic collision and fled to the scene. He was given a 3-year sentence for the crime. As for Derek, he seems to have stayed out of trouble for the time being. Both brothers have claimed that they would like to live a normal life. They both want to find work, get married, and have children. Ricky is still behind bars and is set to be released in 2033. The true motive of the crime still remains somewhat unknown. Some have speculated that they thought they could go and live with Ricky if they were able to get rid of their father, as he was much less strict and allowed them to do the things they wanted to do. It is also likely that Ricky was very successful in grooming Alex, to the point that Alex feared that his father would stop him from pursuing his love affair with him, and so he managed to convince his brother to go along with the murder. The story is a very complicated one, and something still seems incredibly eerie about the case. The boys later admitted that their father had been good to them, and that he had not laid his hands on them. For the most part, he was a good man that tried his best to raise the boys. Terry's brother created a headstone for him. Engraved on the stone are the words, "I love you, Alex and Derek," as he believed it's what Terry would have wanted.